She has been minding her business. Hey, everybody. Welcome in. I want to have a quick conversation about boundaries and about setting boundaries to avoid pain. And the emotional pain that we experience in life is really traced back to a lack of boundaries. Hey, bestie. She's in the house. So I just want to come and say this. It is virtually impossible for you to truly enjoy your life if you don't understand or have firm boundaries. In my coaching, I refer to them as rules of engagement, and it's kind of like traffic lights. If you were to get out on the road to go drive and there were no traffic lights, while you're operating dangerous, large vehicles, there would be chaos, there would be calamity, there would be pain. And the same thing happens in our lives when we don't have clear boundaries and clear rules of engagement. Before we can even really get into what boundaries are and what rules of engagement are, we have to first and foremost have the courage to be honest with ourselves about how our decisions to be passive in the different ways of our life is really paving the way to chaos and the things that we're experiencing. And you really have to do a really thorough analysis of your mindsets, of your perspectives, and let's be different. It causes sickness, exactly. It causes stress and it causes sickness. So the thing is, you have to be honest with yourself about your limiting beliefs and your limiting mindsets. And you have to understand first and foremost that you are a queen and you have the power to run a queendom. That's first and foremost. That's the basics. If you're not there, then it's going to be very difficult for you to create a life that you enjoy, because you're going to just be basically the victim of things that happen to you. And excuse me, you have the power and authority to make rules. All right. And if you don't view yourself as a queen who is worthy of commanding your life, then this video is not going to make sense to you. And it's my intention that you will continue to work on your self-esteem and continue to work on your self-worth, because you're missing out on what can be a really amazing life, not just for you, but for the people around you. All right. So first of all, boundaries, or what I like to call them as rules of engagement, they're not for other people. They're actually for you. You need to learn how to define boundaries for yourself and then adhere to them. When you get in the practice and the habit of doing that, the boundaries with other people will come naturally. It's not something that you're going to have to work at. It's not something that that's not true. I'm sorry. It is something you're going to have to work out. It's something that you're going to have to practice. You have to, so the first part of setting any boundary or any rule of engagement is making a decision about what an outcome is that you want. Just like the example of traffic lights. If you made a decision that human beings, with that particular example, the decision was made that human beings were going to be able to transport themselves safely. And because of that decision, traffic laws had to be created. There had to be architects that looked at timing of when people can stop, when people need to slow down, when people are okay to go. And I'll give you an example from my own personal life. A few years ago, I decided that I wanted to maintain a clean, organized environment for my home, because I realized that was really important for my mental health. It was really important for my energy. It was really important for my emotions. So when I decided, okay, I want to maintain a clean and organized home, that's the decision. Now the boundaries and the rules come after that. So that meant that I had to fold clothes immediately when they came out of the dryer. It meant that I don't go to bed with dishes in the sink. It meant that I tidy up. It meant that, I pick up my clothes and put them in the hamper. It meant that when I'm done in the bathroom, I pick things up, I put them away, I put things where they belong. So creating a boundary really depends on you making a decision about what you want your outcome to be. Without an outcome, you're just kind of like going through life and just, this just happens to be what it is, and this just happens. It's so important. It's so important. And then, so another example is giving your, this is a client's example. So she decided that she wanted to have a happy and healthy relationship, right? She knew what she wanted from her relationship, and this led her to examine her current relationships. And she had to look at those dynamics and make a decision that, you know what? My current partner is not supportive, and they're not capable of helping me to create this outcome of having a happy, harmonious relationship. So I want to tell y'all, like, having boundaries and the rules of engagement is not for the weak. You have to be courage. You cannot be a punk. You have to be willing to step up to your life and be the commander of your life and say, this is what I want my life to look like. This is how I want my life to be. And this is how it's going to be, because I am going to set up these different rules of engagement, not just for myself, but for other people. And what happens is confrontation is going to happen when you start to do this, because you're going to have to confront yourself. You're going to have to be like, what are you doing? This is not what you said that you were going to do. You said that you wanted a clean and healthy, happy home, and you're not behaving in ways that are supporting that. You said that you wanted to have a certain physique, but yet you're stuffing nonsense down your face. You said that, you wanted to be in this particular career path, but you're not setting aside the time to study and educate yourself and commit to the things that are going to get you there. So the thing about life is that you're going to have pain either way. You're going to have the pain of disappointment and defeat, or you can have the pain of discipline and actual intention. Either way, I'm not here to sell you a fairy tale and tell you that life is easy, because it's not. It's hard. And anybody, any coach or any person that gets up here and says, oh, well, I have the techniques and the framework that can help your life be easy. It's not about being easy. It's about avoiding unnecessary pain. So life is already hard. We don't need to be just floating and flitting through without actually knowing exactly what the end goal is. Just like you don't pick up and go to your friend's house out of town and just wander there, right? You put the address in the GPS. You make a decision about where you're going, and then you delegate that mapping and that navigation process to whatever you're using. You should definitely be using Waze, because it tells you where the police are. And then it tells you this is the best way to go. Hey, there's an accident over here. Go that way. Hey, there's rush hour traffic here. Go that way. So that's another way that you're setting a rule of engagement. So I want us to all remember this. We need to be really clear about what it is that we want from life. Because when we just say, oh, I just want to have a good life, what does that mean to you? That's something different to everybody. I co-parent with my children, and I decided one of my personal decisions this year is that I really want to be a better parent. I want to improve my parenting, and that has led me to purchase different books on parenting. It's led me to research different YouTube videos. It's led me to basically go down a path of, looking for resources that can help me with that. And one of the things that I found was really looking at kind of the Eastern style of parenting versus the Western style of parenting, which is a conversation for another day. But the bottom line is that we have to be willing to hold ourselves accountable and be honest with ourselves, and stop thinking that one day magically life is just going to be great, because it doesn't work like that. And also, it's not anyone else's responsibility to make your life great. You have to make that decision. One of my favorite authors, Fred Dotson, talks about the mirror doesn't smile at you until you smile first. You can't expect to see something until you are the one who puts that forth. So being able to set boundaries and really define the rules of engagement, it doesn't just help you in your life, but it helps other people. When you decide that, hey, you know what? I'm co-parenting with you. We're going to do this. We're going to both be involved, active parents. That means that you have to hold other people accountable. And sometimes there's confrontations, and sometimes they don't like it. And sometimes it's not going to be what they want to hear. But guess what? You have already decided that this is the outcome. So with any outcome that you want, there's always going to be some friction. There's always going to be friction in life. We're human beings. We came to this life for a reason. Sometimes we know what it is, sometimes we don't. But the bottom line is that we have the power to shape our experiences while we're here. And you can't be a punk. You cannot be a punk. You cannot be scared to tiptoe around and, oh, I don't want to make them upset. Oh, I don't want them to feel angry with me. There has to be a point where you pick your own pleasure and your own joy and your own fulfillment over the opinions of other people. And frankly, boundaries are really helpful to help other people grow and to help other people evolve. Because when you define and say, this is what it is, for example, with parenting, when I say, okay, I want to have a healthy and clean and organized environment, guess what? That means that my children have to have certain chores. They have to do certain tasks. They're being trained that this is the way that life is supposed to be. I'm supposed to be in a clean environment. So your boundaries are helpful to other people. If you're in a situation in a relationship dynamic, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a coworker, whether it's a romantic relationship, and you have already decided, I need to be heard. I need to be listened to. I need to be able to communicate. I need to feel safe. When you don't feel those things, you have to make a decision for yourself on whether you're going to continue to engage in that. That's why I call them the rules of engagement. My engagement is conditional upon this type of environment. If this type of environment is not present, then I'm not engaging. And what that does for other people is it allows them to examine themselves and say, I really want to be able to engage with this person. And it gives them the opportunity to level up and them the opportunity to grow. So when you're not having boundaries and when you're not setting these rules of engagement, you're doing no one any favors. You're not doing yourself any favors, and you're not doing the people around you any favors. Okay? So it's so important to, first and foremost, take accountability for the ways in which you have been not having boundaries and not having rules of engagement, how you've just kind of been just passive and letting things go by. Be ready to accept the fact that you are the only one that can change the dynamic in your life. There's nobody coming to save you. You can't keep blaming your mother for the rest of your life. You can't keep blaming your father for the rest of your life. You can't keep blaming your trauma for the rest of your life. You have to be willing to focus, process, and release it, and then take accountability to say, I'm the only one that can change my life. And when you start learning about the laws of energy and how much power your attention and your focus really have, you then start to realize like, oh, I'm paying attention to my self-talk. I'm paying attention to my triggers. I'm paying attention to the beliefs that I have that aren't really serving me. And being real with yourself about all that stuff is going to help you get to the point where you can be confident enough to say, I am ready to create my rules of engagement. I am the queen of my queendom, and I get to say what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. I get to say what works for me and what doesn't work for me. I get to be here. And so another huge part is being grateful. A lot of times we are so focused on what's not going right, what's not working out, what didn't happen the way we want to, instead of looking around us, taking time to pull our head out of our behinds and say, you know what, actually life is not that bad. I actually have a roof over my head. I actually have food to eat. I actually have electricity. I actually have the internet. I actually have a phone. I actually have access to information. And it does require discipline to watch what you're focusing on and watch the fact that if you're complaining, it's not going to be helpful. So being clear about your rules of engagements, you know that you can command your life. You don't let your life command you. You don't allow people to just come in and treat you any type of way. You don't allow people to take advantage of your natural propensity to be the problem solver. You don't do that. You really have to be clear because you help other people grow that way, and also you protect your peace. So you have to really think about the person that you want to become and define what choices does she make. Think about who is that person that I want to become? What does her life look like? Okay, so now that I know what her life looks like, And I'm not trying to breeze over this like this is easy, because this can be difficult. But taking the time to really contemplate and consider, what does this look like, and what does that mean for the choices that I need to start making right now? And also learning how to start trusting our intuition, especially in Western society, globally, but especially in Western society. We as women have been taught to really ignore a lot of our intuition and to really fall in line to a very patriarchal view and way of doing things. Now, I'm not going to go off on that because that's a whole other huge issue. But we have been really taught and trained not to listen to our intuition. We've been taught and trained that how people view us, how people feel about us, how people respond to us is the most important thing. And we have to really change to become delusional in that regard, for that context, and say, I don't give a crap. It doesn't matter. What matters is how I feel at the end of the day and when I wake up in the morning and throughout my day. I want to feel fulfilled. I want to feel happy. I don't want to have anxiety. I don't want to feel depressed. I don't want to feel overwhelmed. I don't want to feel like I'm not good enough. And so in order to do that, a lot of times you have to abandon what society's expectations are from you. Okay? And a lot of times also you have to practice ignoring. Once you set your rules and your boundaries, if they're not met, you have to be hard and fast about, okay, well then I'm not doing it. And again, this is why I say boundaries and rules of engagement are for you. They're not for anyone else to adhere to. They're for you to adhere to, and for you to make executive decisions about whether or not you feel like your rules of engagement are being followed. And if they're not being followed, you need to make the necessary adjustments. And sometimes it's going to mean you have confrontations with people, and you have to remain level-headed, because what happens in those confrontations is people will do ad hominem attacks. They'll bring up, well, you don't do, and you used to do. Right now, today, these are my rules of engagement. And really, your rules of engagement need to consider the fact that no one else is responsible for your happiness. No one else is responsible to validate you. So there's a lot. This is loaded, but I wanted to just come on here today and talk about it because it's the 1st of September. We have 4 more months left in this year, and we can choose today to set in place some new rules of engagement that will really transform us by the end of the year, by the end of the month even. And it really just requires, again, the first step is deciding, what is it that I want for myself that I don't feel like I have access to right now? And once we decide that, we have to, it's baby steps. You got to bite off little pieces of the steak. You can't just stuff the whole thing down your mouth. You got to say, okay, if I decide, for example, that I want to get certified in a certain thing, okay, that means that I got to carve out an hour every day to study it. If I decide that I want to be a certain physique, okay, that means I got to be really mindful of what I'm eating and the times that I'm eating. And, being mindful of, am I getting movement in every day? And am I drinking water? So rules of engagement, boundaries are really, really important because they prevent you from experiencing unnecessary pain. Life is life. It's always going to life. There's always going to be things that come up that we can't control. But what we do have control over is our perspective and the way that we react to things. And it does take practice. It does take time, but it's possible. Okay? So thank you for joining me this evening. I hope that everyone's having an amazing night. I hope that you had a beautiful week. I hope that you're having a really good start to September. And I love you all, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.